Hello and welcome to another review from Through the Eyes of Enji, raising money for We Are With You Shropshire and the Shawbury Village Players by watching 101 films in 1 year. We Are With You is a confidential service for young people and families affected by drugs and alcohol in Shropshire. Their work includes information, support and advice about drugs and alcohol, one-to-one support, group work, parent-carer helpline, help to make decisions about lifestyle, links to other services, early intervention and harm reduction. If you've known me any particular period of time, you've probably heard me talk about the Shawbury Village Players. Shawbury Village Players are a local community group working in, surprisingly enough, Shawbury, putting on pantomimes, murder mysteries, Shakespeare, you name it, we'd probably try it. Now, if you're anything like me and you have struggled a bit with your mental health in the past, then you might appreciate, like I do, how devastating it would be to lose something like the Village Players. Especially when we're talking about the film we're talking about this time, which is almost about teenagers needing the theatre. Yeah, we're, courtesy of Sam, we're talking about High School Musical. So, High School Musical, released in 2006 on the Disney Channel. It was directed by Kenny Ortega of Dirty Dancing fame. It was written by Peter Barsocchini. It starred Zac Efron as Troy, Vanessa Hudgens as Gabriella, Ashley Tisdale as Sharpie, Lucas Grabeel as Ryan, and Corbin Bleu as Chad. So, the film that launched 1,000 careers is about a popular high school athlete and an academically gifted girl who get roles in the High School Musical and developed a friendship that threatens East High's social order. Now, we can't start this review, really, without addressing the multiple elephants filling up the room. See, whilst the impact of High School Musical, the careers it launched, and the massive financial success it brought to the then still quite new Disney Channel can't really be denied, nor can we really not deny the shot in the arm, well, maybe not shot in the arm, but the influence this had on the success of musicals in general. That kind of flies it back to the death of the Hollywood musical, which is something I'll probably wind up talking to when I cover the sequels, because yes, thank you Sam for nominating this one, and as you donated so generously, I am going to do the sequels to this as well, and I'm probably going to wind up doing another musical as well, because we kind of need to talk about the fact that this film was originally intended to be Grease 3, and you can tell. So, the story of the proposed Grease 3 was going to be the same one that we have here with High School Musical, but with a few tweaks to link it into the story of the original Grease, linking in a few extra characters, probably basing it at Rydell High School rather than East High, with Troy and Gabriella being the children of Danny and Sandy, and Sharpie being the daughter of Rizzo. And you can see the links to Grease in High School Musical. You just look at they have a sequence when all the students go back to school, which is very reminiscent of everyone coming back from the summer holidays back to Rydell. And you can also see, with the New Year's Eve party away from the social groupings of the high school, and these two characters meeting for the first time, and with some of the duets as well. Okay, just quickly about the singing. All of you massive High School Musical fans, you know that's not Zac Efron singing most of the time in this first one, right? If you listen to the duet he has with Gabriella again, you'll notice that he sings the first 2 or 3 lines, and then it changes completely. The notes he's singing change completely. It's because it's somebody else's voice. Zac Efron sang his little bit on the balcony, the first few lines of that number, and the first few lines of the initial duet, and the rest was sung by someone completely different, the name of which escapes me and I haven't written it down, so it should be appearing round about here at this point in the review. Okay, so whilst Zac Efron did do his own singing for the sequels, it doesn't Does it tarnish his otherwise perfect record? No? Oh, never mind. I actually have a lot of time for Zac Efron, because whilst he's undoubtedly had the best career coming out of High School Musical, the others haven't exactly done bad either. And, another fun fact, Zac Efron's first role in anything was actually in Firefly. Yeah. Does this give away that I'm grasping at straws of things to talk about? Yeah. Okay, the choreography, unsurprisingly, is really good. The basketball song has some really interesting usage of sound, with the squeaks of trainers on the wooden floor kind of being built into the music that... Okay, look. Even more than last week when I did Enola Holmes, I'm clearly not the target audience for this film, and watching it, I couldn't help but think the film has almost an amateur theatre feel to it. And I wasn't too surprised when I did a bit of reading afterwards and found that the film was shot in 24 days, following a couple of weeks of intense dance lessons for the cast, which does appear to have taken hold. And there was also like 3-hour daily basketball training sessions for Efron, who had no formal training and was just, in his word, just winging it. And, oh my god, that man really needs to have a flaw somewhere, like a small penis or something, because he's just too good at everything he tries to do, I swear. Anyway, it really hit home with the target audience, who put the songs for this film really high up in the charts, and definitely fueled the franchise to go from this tiny little musical on the Disney Channel, made very little money, based on an idea they couldn't use. I don't think I actually pointed out earlier that they couldn't make this Grease 3 because the holders of the rights to the musical wouldn't release them to Disney. And, it moved on, and, now we've got 3 films, we've got a spin-off series for Sharpie, even. Wow, that's a difference. And you've also got a new series starting now on Disney Plus, which is about a group of teenagers putting on the High School Musical. I'm going to build myself into a loop here. High School Musical that was released in 2006, which has been performed at last count about 1,276 times, probably more. Official usage of the license has been done about 1,200 times now. But even at this kind of early stage of Disney moving in on this particular area, you could see the corporation sinking its claws into the franchise to kind of maintain brand identity and integrity. And one of the probably more disturbing facts about this lovely light-hearted musical was that producers at Disney gave instructions to the director and Lucas Grabeel, who played Ryan, that despite their intent, they couldn't identify Ryan as gay because this was supposed to be a family-friendly film. Now, this is nonsense on so many levels, it actually makes me angry. Because the truth was that, most likely, this wasn't done to present this clean, happy-go-lucky musical, but probably there was a thought along the lines of certain charming individuals who wouldn't let their little sprogs watch the film if they thought there was, God forbid, gays in it, having obviously never watched musicals before. Another kind of interesting fact was that High School Musical was just the working title of the film, while the producers tried to find something different because no one really liked the title. It was just kind of slapped on. What are we working on? It's a High School Musical. And the name just kind of hung around, and this kind of slapdash, throwing it all together vibe has worked elsewhere. Hell, I mean, I've directed The Complete Works of William Shakespeare Abridged, which is a production that practically ran on that energy. But with the Disney brand kind of hovering behind it, something's lost. Some of that energy is lost with High School Musical. I mean, you can't knock the film's core message of inclusivity and broadening your horizons and not being locked into the status quo of your social group. And there's an entire song, probably one of the better songs actually, that almost spells that out. But the problem with High School Musical and that message is the film's really cheesy and predictable, and the message kind of gets lost somewhere in all the cheddar. And you do kind of have to acknowledge the irony of a film trying to push a message that's of not sticking to that status quo when all of the characters have been done before much better. I mean, I kind of got reminded watching the film of one of my guilty pleasures, which is a film called Get Over It, which is a very similar kind of teen film, but it's a lot more watchable and funnier. But then I was part of the target audience for Get Over It when it came out, and I wasn't for High School Musical. Just for reference, I was 21 when the film came out, and Laura was 15, and she was very much the target audience and has fond memories of High School Musical, much along the same lines as the fond memories and feelings I have for Starship Troopers, having watched that at that sort of age. And that's a film that stuck with me in the same way that High School Musical has stuck with Laura. And you're probably noticing that I'm actually talking a lot about the singing in the film, and that's because quite a few of the songs were kind of drowned out by Laura singing along with them. I mean, look, when this film got record views when it premiered on the Disney Channel, the marketing machine swung into high gear, and this combined with teenagers putting up videos of them singing and dancing to the songs from the film on YouTube, which was also quite a young platform at the time. They probably did as much work as the marketing machine did. And, there is an argument for High School Musical changing films. I mean, I'm known for my argument that one of the most influential films ever made was Tim Burton's Batman, with the way that the film was planned and marketed and the impact it had on the superhero genres at the time, but also on the character of Batman as a whole. But we're not going there. There's a real argument that High School Musical really changed films. I mean, forget it. Let's make a start on this because this review is already longer than I wanted it to be. Okay, so maybe the draw of High School Musical comes partially from its timing. I mean, Disney Channel original films at the time tended to be aimed at a younger audience, like the Lizzie Griffiths films, whilst High School Musical aimed itself at more of a teenage audience, and initially relied on word of mouth between those teenagers. Remember when this came out back in 2006? It's a long time before people were able to instantly stream films. Worth pointing out at this point that Netflix at the time was emailing out DVDs to people who were registered to it when you had to put down your preference, the films you wanted. Oh, God, Christ, I'm old. Anyway, in trying to launch, Disney was almost trying to launch a series of films at the time where the actors could double up as pop stars. You got to remember, Rolling Stone did a profile on Zac Efron, despite him not singing the songs. And whilst I suspect the whole drive of what High School Musical was solidified by its sequel, I suspect we'll probably talk about that more when I do the sequel. Probably the biggest impact of High School Musical was setting the scene for other light-hearted, happy-go-lucky musicals becoming more popular by making a bigger audience for them and giving a lot of us the excuse to go out and like these big silly musicals that were happy and feel good, like Mamma Mia, which I have got in the jar, thank you, E. And, some of the darker, more serious musicals almost got moved to the side. I'm looking at you once, Sweeney Todd. I'm looking at you 3 times, Todd Hooper, and your Les Mis adaptation. And it goes further than that, because without High School Musical, it's entirely possible that we wouldn't have had Glee. And following on from Glee, we wouldn't have had the mega success that was Pitch Perfect as well. Whether that's positive or negative depends entirely on your own point of view, of course. But then we might also not have had Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog as well. So, thanks, High School Musical. In short, High School Musical It's short, it's cheesy, it's definitely a product of its time. And if you've got teenage children, then you're probably already aware of the film. And if you're a teenager at the time, then you might well be one of the crowd of people outside my front door holding all the pitchforks. And yeah, hey, if you guys didn't like what I did to this one, you're probably not going to like. You're going to like even less when I start talking about the sequels. I mean, if I had to stop and think whilst I was typing up my notes for this review, thinking whether or not I actually enjoyed High School Musical, and it was an hour and a half. I didn't hate wasting my time watching it, like I've done so many times before, where I've just thought that was a dead 2 hours that I've wasted of my life. And I didn't feel like that about High School Musical, but then I didn't find myself going, God, I really want to listen to the soundtrack, God, I really want to watch the sequels. And you know, maybe if I'd watched it at the time, I might have gotten more into it, but you know, at the time this was released, I was too busy raging about Dead Man's Chest killing the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise and X-Men The Last Stand burning all of the goodwill away from the X-Men films and salivating buckets over Superman Returns, which was a film that summed up how I felt at that point in my life with almost a painful accuracy. And at that moment, maybe I wasn't really thinking about a film about how much teenagers need the theatre to bring them all together. And maybe I should have been. I could have realised how much I love being on stage early. Sponsor me, support the Village Players. Shameless plug. So yeah, that was High School Musical. So back to the jar. This new schedule, by the way, of having the week to watch the film and write everything up has really worked. Problem is, as you can probably tell, it's getting a bit dark outside now, so I'm having to rely on artificial light, which doesn't do a great job. So I might have to try and get stuff sorted in advance. Anyway, next film we are going to cover is going to be courtesy of Martin. The next one we're doing is Leprechaun 4 in Space. Leprechaun 4 in Space. I'm quietly regretting my decision to stay sober watching all of these films now. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Thank you everybody who's sponsored me. Please keep supporting us. Please go on the website, throw me a few quid, recommend me a film, or not. Help support what's a great charity and what is a major thing for a community. Because without the Village Players, a lot of us wouldn't know what to do in that time. God, this went on a long time, didn't it? Thanks for watching. Like and share the video, please. Subscribe so you'll find out when other films come along. And you never know, one of these might run under 10 minutes one day. Thanks for watching.